Deshaun Watson. He has apparently torn his Achilles tendon, and the Cleveland Browns fans cheered as he was injured, probably disabled for the rest of the 2024 season, which brought delight to at least a good portion of the Cleveland Browns faithful. And some are saying that it was a bad look for the Cleveland fans. In fact, Ron, before you reply, let's get a word from Jameis Winston, who was pretty passionate about this after the game.
Upset with the reaction to a man that has had the world against him for the past 4 years, and he put his body and life on the line for this city every single day, regardless of your perception, regardless of what you thought should happen with him. He committed every single day that I've been here to be the best that he can be for this team. And I know I come from the deep South, Birmingham, Alabama, Belmont, Alabama. So I know the standard that hungry fans want. But the way I was raised, I will never pull on a man when he's down.
All right, Ron. There were some fans, apparently they were chanting "You deserve it" to Deshaun Watson as he was no doubt writhing in pain. What's your take on this, man?
Wow. Kind of across the board on this. Like, first of all, Jameis needs to settle down. The world was against him for 4 years. Jameis, would you like to explain why the world was against him? Maybe. So that seems a little too much from Jameis there. I get why you'd be upset that people were cheering when a guy got injured, but I do understand why they were cheering, because I have a bunch of friends that are Browns fans, and they are so tired of just Deshaun Watson. They're tired of his contract. They're tired of being associated, having their team being associated with what he did. I mean, what's he settled? 23 cases, something like that. So
I believe 23 is correct.
Yes. I think the look I get was bad, but I think I can only go by what I think, Ricky. I think they were cheering because they knew that they didn't have to deal with this guy anymore, and that the Deshaun Watson era was officially over in Cleveland. I think that's probably why they were cheering. I don't think, they're happy that this guy's, going to have to go through rehab and because I guess Achilles rehab's just awful. By the way, are there more Achilles injuries now than there ever were before? Like, I don't remember Achilles injuries like when I was a kid or even in the 90s. It just seems like it's an epidemic of Achilles injuries right now. But I don't know, man. I understand why they cheered, because they just so desperately did not want him to be on this team. And I think they felt like he had to be on the team because of how big that contract was, and the Browns were just going to play him regardless.
Well, as you said, the guy settled. I do believe the number's 23 cases. And then, of course, apart from the off-the-field stuff, why people might not like him, you've got just that horrid contract. One of the all-time worst contracts in the history of sports. And so being saddled with that contract has frustrated a lot of fans. I will say, Ron, look, it's never a good look to see people cheering someone being hurt. But at the same time, it's not like it was a life-threatening injury. They weren't cheering like a neck injury or something like that, whatever. I would still say that it tain't cool, though.
No, it tain't.
Yeah, not at all. Let's see what else we've got here. Donald Trump. Let's talk about Donald Trump. McDonald's. Ron, did you see him working the drive-thru at a McDonald's in Pennsylvania yesterday?
That man has turned into an American treasure. I'm sorry. He is the gift that just keeps on giving. And I mean, I don't know, I can't remember if you guys talked about what his comments were at that kind of roast dinner that they had last week. But between that and this, I mean, He's just turning into this likable guy. I'm sorry.
It's remarkable that he's out there doing anything after almost getting shot in the head. I think we need to put, whatever you think of him, we need to pull back and remember that this motherfucker almost got assassinated on live television. I mean, came within as close as you could get, and he's just out there like nothing affects this guy.
Nope.
It's remarkable that he continues to just be out there campaigning and doing all of this stuff. I mean, look, it was fun. The people who don't like him obviously aren't going to like it. I saw somebody post on X. They were saying that they'd posted like the sign where the McDonald's was closed.
Right, I saw that.
Because President Trump was going to be there, and they were like, well, this is fraudulent. Just so you all, well, what did you fucking think? Do you think he's going to get a fucking paycheck? Congratulations, Sherlock. You know, they didn't actually hire him. And that invalidates the whole thing. It had like 100,000 likes, but I think it just, you know, it upsets people that don't like him to see that. But if Kamala had been there doing it, I'm sure, you know, all the people that didn't like it would have liked it, and all the people that did like it wouldn't have liked it. That's just the polarized society that we live in, Ron.
Did you see any of the video of that was kind of shot from the inside going out the drive-through window into the cars of the people that were coming by? I mean, some of these people, and they weren't just some white guy. I mean, I think one family was Brazilian, and I think another family was black. And I believe
we've got that footage, Ronnie. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They were
genuine. They genuinely liked the man.
Let's look at the tweet first, and then we'll look at some of that footage. We've checked with McDonald's, and they say definitively this is Trump on. Looks like this one's from Truth Social. There's no record of lying Kamala Harris ever having worked there. In other words, she never worked there and has lied about this job for years. And then he goes on to say that the Biden administration's killing franchises and it'll destroy jobs and stuff, and no tax on tips. That's his thing now. But yeah, let's look at the footage of him serving up some French fries at this McDonald's from the drive.
I could do this all day. I wouldn't mind this job. I like this job. I think I might come back and do it again.
Thank you.
Look at that.
Mr.
Look at that. How are you?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Nice to see you.
You made it possible for ordinary people like us to meet you.
You're not ordinary.
I mean, thank you so much
You
for
are not
everything.
ordinary. I can see.
We pray for you, and you are the type of person we want to be the president.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
So nice. Thank you very much. Yeah, I took a bullet. That's right.
Thank you, Mr. President.
When you think about it, I guess that's right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, you know, how many people can say that they had French fries served to them by a U.S. president? There's a story to tell your grandchildren.
You think the ice cream machine was working?
That's a great question, Ron. You know, I was on Dockage right before this, and I went to McDonald's yesterday and got a double quarter pounder, which is my go-to when I'm there. And they bring it out, and the thing is lukewarm. It's just lukewarm. And so I say to the lady, look, I'd like to get this fresh, please. You know, I never want to be the diva, but I feel like if you pay for something, you deserve it to be fresh. Mm-hmm. And who's going to advocate for you if you don't advocate for yourself, right? So I said, I'd like this to be fresh. And I had a large fry too. And so I handed her the large fry, and she said, the fries are hot. And I said, they won't be by the time you get back with my burger. And I could see her seething. She walked away, and I just said to my daughters, well, I'm probably going to be eating a booger.
I was going to say
something.
Spit. Yep.
Yeah, but it was fresh spit off the grill, if nothing else. So, look, I think it's a cool thing. It's obviously a troll of Kamala. It's a photo op type thing. I think it plays well for him. I can't believe, Ron, though, we're 15 days out, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this thing is slipping up on us quickly. This election is 2 weeks from tomorrow. And, right now, I think by, general consensus, it's too close to call. Trump is looking better in some of the poll numbers, though, that we've seen come out over the past week or so. What are you expecting, man?
I mean, it feels like these polls never really mean anything, and it just all comes down to what happens 2 weeks from tomorrow. I mean, have you actually wrapped your head around, like, I think we forget what that night is like. Like, it's like a massive sporting event. Like, we camp in front of our TV, we get our snacks, and we're there for 3, 4, 5, gosh, sometimes 6 hours, where we are watching the poll result, or not the poll, the poll results come through, like the actual official votes come through, and living and depending on who you're voting for, you're living and dying with every report, and you're doing the mental math in your head. Like when your team is down and you're trying to figure out exactly what needs to happen for your team to win the game. All right, so we need to score a touchdown, and then if we get the onside kick and score another touchdown and get a 2-point conversion, then we can tie the game. And I feel like that's what we'll all be doing on Tuesday night in 2 weeks, is playing these mental games and trying to figure out how this is going to work out. And it's going to be a big deal, Ricky.
And then they always go to the expert. Is it John King on CNN?
Yeah.
They're always up there pointing at different counties. Like, well, this county hasn't come in yet. And this county voted 73% for Joe Biden last time. And so we got to see that. And they're up there with the touch screen. And the thing that gets me, though, Ron, is it would be real nice if we could get a result at the end of the election day. Is that too much to fucking ask? We used to be able to do that. Why can't we do that now? They're already saying hey, don't expect some of these states, they're going to be close. It might take 2, 3, 4 days before you know.
It just adds to people's distrust.
It adds to people's distrust. That's exactly right. Because especially if you're older, if you're younger, if you're 22, well, maybe it doesn't affect you because you don't know any different. But if you're our age, you remember when election results were basically in. Mm-hmm. And that was it. It wasn't some multi-day drawn out process.
The concession speech happened that night.
Right. Yeah. That was all pretty normal.
Yeah.
But the era that we live in now, I was telling Dockich this morning, I said the first presidential, I'm real big today, Ron, into the first things that I remember. But the first presidential election I remember was Reagan and Carter in 80. And that election, if you go back and you look at what politics were like in 1980, but then again, I said it was closer to what politics were like in this country in the 40s than today. But if you think about it, 1980 is equidistant between today and 1936. Crazy. So while, I look back at 1980 and think, well, that was a lot healthier. We disagreed, but everybody wasn't at everybody else's throats all the time like it is today. But my God, dude, it was almost a half a century ago.
Yeah. That equidistance game blows my mind anytime I play it or somebody else plays it with me. Sometimes it's soul crushing when people do it. You just go, oh God, I can't believe that.
Listen, you really want to crush your soul? What year were you born, Ron?
66.
All right. You were born in 66. That is closer in time to 1909 than today. There
Radio
you go. Carry that
been
nugget
invented.
with you.
Radio had not have been invented.
Your birth is closer to the non-existence of radio. Is that true? When was radio invented?
1919.
I don't know. Marconi.
Yeah, Marconi.
Tremendous work from Marconi. Ron, let's take a look at what I'm tweeting. What am I tweeting? Here's one for you, Ron. This was something that I tweeted while I was at my daughter's 7th grade playoff volleyball game on Friday night. We took a loss, Ronnie. We completed a winless season, unfortunately, but a great group of kids. And I was at this game, and I saw a woman eat a ruffle. You know, there's some downtime when you're at a 7th grade volleyball game, Ron. And I just was sitting behind this woman, and she had a bag of chips. And I was just absent-mindedly just sitting there, just lost in my thoughts. And I noticed this woman ate a single ruffle in 4 bites. And I tweeted, who the hell gets 4 bites out of a fucking potato chip? I don't trust her.
Ricky, I bet my average is 4 chips that I put in my mouth at the same time. Right? Like not 4 bites, but like actual
That's
4
more
potato
like it.
chips. Yeah.
It's more like it. I mean, if you get a really big potato, you know, like the biggest potato chip in the bag, you know, there's usually a couple of really big ones in there. You know, maybe that's a 2-biter. You know, if it's bigger than the width of your mouth, I don't think there's any shame in that. But when you have just like a regular size potato chip and you're nibbling on it like you're a squirrel, I don't understand that.
Hey, man, speaking of potato chips, this just brought back a childhood memory. You used to remember, so before we went to Kettle and the Ruffles and stuff, it was just kind of that basic potato chip. You ate those too fast and you swallowed one a little bit too whole, it would get caught in your throat and you thought you were going to die. Like you felt like there was a knife in your throat. Did you ever do that? Or is that just fat ass me?
Oh, well, I'm sure at some point. I remember when my oldest daughter was a toddler, I gave her a potato chip. She came up and like she had one of those moments and like the look on her face, and it was just like, okay, like I'm never giving, she's not getting another potato chip until she's 17, you know, because she had one that,
just lodges right there, man.
I didn't know if I was going to have to perform the Heimlich or what on that kid, but
tracheotomy.
Yes, Ron. Yeah. Home tracheotomy. You just pull out a Bic and do the home tracheotomy. There's not enough of us that are trained in that. CPR. Did you take CPR when you were in school?
I took
it when I was in health class.
Don't have a heart attack around me right now. That's all I'd say.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Listen, I took it. I got certified. I remember at the end of the class, we got some type of certification. I don't know if that was legitimate or it was just to make us feel good. But I remember, you know, you do like 2 compressions. Now, what would you blow in the mouth twice, and then you do 15 compressions or something like that. I'm doing it wrong. I'd be blowing in somebody's mouth 15 times and then doing 2 compressions. Why did he die?
I mean, that was probably a big deal for you. I mean, being undateable like you were, it was your first chance to kiss, kind of get that mouth-to-mouth action with something.
I was like, Annie, are you okay? That's what we had to say. We had like the Resusci Annie doll. And so you were supposed to like kind of shake her by the shoulders and say, Annie, are you okay? And then I would turn around with like that little mist that you would do to freshen your breath. And
Bianca?
I'd be like,
was it Bianca?
Yeah. I'd hit myself with a little of that. And I'd say, I'm going to take you to paradise, Annie. You're my girlfriend now. Can't die. Can't die on me. You're the only woman that my lips have ever been on. Got to resuscitate you and then take you down the aisle and wed you in holy matrimony. Annie. Let's take a look. What else am I tweeting, for God's sake? Here's a good one, Ron. Look at that. I said, are you living or are you merely existing? On this glorious 70s afternoon, this young man was living. Livin. Also, I don't think he fucking made it. Ron,
No chance.
I don't know if anybody, producer Tim, Jared, feel free to weigh in my ear here, fellas, but I'm doubtful that he made it. I don't think he's got enough air there to clear those remaining.
So here's
he's still
the question,
got to clear
Ricky.
like 6 or 7 bikes. There's no way.
Ricky, here's the question. So, unless you're a psycho, you don't line up that many bikes on your first attempt. So that means he was probably gradually got to that point, right?
Dude, well, either that or he's biting off a lot more than he can chew. I mean, first of all, I'm a little bit, I'm going to take a couple of points away from him for wearing a helmet.
I know.
Soft. This is the 1970s. That's a little soft. Did you really need the helmet? He's the first person I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of ill-advised bicycle jump photos over the course of the last decade, being the Super 70s guy. But this is the first one where the guy's been wearing a helmet. That helmet might weigh him down.
It feels like there's more people more bikes than there are people that go with each bike. Like they just did like a bike collection or something. Like that's insane.
It's ambitious is all I'm saying. And I mean, because how many bikes are there? Like I'm trying to count them. That's like at
30?
least maybe, I think there's at least like 15.
Oh no, there's more than 15, Ricky.
His back wheel is lower than the ramp.
Yeah, no, he never made it.
Like lower than the ramp. I don't think he made it.
He never made it.
Man.
He never made it. No.
Which is a pity, What else am I tweeting? Let's do one more, guys. I'm all excited about it now. Hey, yeah, here's one. I said, if you're of a certain age, this is what you think the NFL should still look like, and you're fucking right. Ron, that is the NFL that I became a fan of when I was a kid. Those are the helmets that were on my first lunchbox. I had the NFL helmet. You had the AFC on one side, the NFC on the other side. These were the helmets. This is the NFL of my youth.
Did you see the Packers yesterday? All white helmets. Like it was called the Winter is Coming edition.
Oh, God. Well, see, if I'd known they were going to dress like that, I wouldn't have made them one of my picks, Ron. And they didn't bring it home for me. So a little bit disappointed there. No, I didn't see it, but I saw the uniforms a while back, like the preview. Okay. And I thought it looked fucking stupid. I'm going to be honest with you. What were your thoughts?
I really am a big fan of all white uniforms. I think they look really clean out on a football field, but there's something about the helmet. That helmet should just always be yellow. Like it should always be yellow.
They've got one of the classic uniforms in the history of sports. Yeah. Not just the NFL, but in the history of sports. I felt the same way when the Bears, when they wear the orange helmet. Ugh. Yeah, it's just, and that's my favorite color. I mean, that's actually my favorite color, but not for the Bears helmet because you don't look like the Bears anymore. So, and there are some alternate uniforms that I like, but look, is that an okay uniform if you've never seen the Green Bay Packers before? Well, yeah, I guess so. But compared to what they ordinarily wear, I just, come on, know your brand. Know your brand is all I'm saying to these teams.
So, you know how sometimes be careful what you wish for? Well, last year, the first 7 games, who some people think was the worst quarterback in the history of the NFL, which clearly is not true, but Zach Wilson was 4-3 with the Jets last year. And man, all the Jets want is just get me Aaron Rodgers and we're going to win the Super Bowl. Well, you got Aaron Rodgers and you're 2-5. Be careful what you wish for, Ricky.
Well, all right. Well, that may be true. But Zach Wilson's fucking terrible, and we all know it. Nobody would rather have Zach Wilson. Although, Ron, I have to tell you, I believe Aaron Rodgers will be 41 years old in December. And he is one of the greatest ever. I have always said he's my favorite passer to watch throughout his career. He throws such a pretty spiral. He makes it look so easy. His interception rate has been insanely low throughout his career. Look, I do believe Tom Brady is the GOAT, but if you go and you just look at their statistics and you don't know how they fared in the playoffs, if I just showed you their lines, it would be hard to argue against Aaron Rodgers as being better, as not being better than Tom Brady. If you're looking purely at touchdown to interception ratio, that passer rating, that kind of thing. Aaron Rodgers has just always been next level. Okay. His lowest 2 quarterback ratings of his great career, 2022 and 2024 so far. His interception rate is way up. It's about double, maybe even a little bit more than double since 2022, what we had seen him do for about a decade prior. We're talking about a guy who has thrown so few interceptions, he can remember most, if not all of them. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
He has that weird memory thing where you could be like, okay, dude, like, who intercepted you in 2009? And I'm pretty sure that, like, he can go back and tell you that. They said that Pete Rose was kind of the same way. Like, some of these guys that are really great, they're almost like savants in a sense. 2022 was his worst passer rating of his entire career, if I'm not mistaken. This year so far, it's even lower. And of course, those 2 seasons that have not been great by his standards are sandwiched around a lost season due to the Achilles. So is this a situation where, yes, Aaron Rodgers is still good, but he's not Aaron Rodgers anymore? And at 2-5, with the problems that this Jets team has, Woody Johnson presses the fire the coach button. They lose. He presses the Devontae Adams button. They lose. I had them this week. I think you had the Steelers, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that you had a pretty good week. We'll get to that. But I had the Jets. I had the Jets because I just believed the Jets needed it so fucking bad. And I thought that Russell Wilson would be rusty. So I went with the Jets. Obviously, I couldn't have been more wrong. I mean, Russell Wilson did look rusty in the first half.
Yeah, we were texting each other.
The Steelers took care of business, man. And now the Jets 2-5. I don't know, man. They don't have any more margin for error as I see it. I mean, they have to turn this thing around immediately. If they go to 2-6, I think you might as well, as Don Meredith used to say, turn out the lights, the party's over.
Yep. Well, it's actually interesting. You keep talking about the quarterback rating. Is who actually has a not very good quarterback rating this year? The quarterback of the only team that's undefeated. Patrick Mahomes' quarterback rating is not very good right now, and that team's 6-0. So it's just one of those interesting little facts right now.
Dave Ross was very emphatic. Dave Ross was all over the 49ers on Friday.
Yeah. And
he said that he wouldn't be surprised if it had been a blowout. He was really feeling good about the Niners at home against the Chiefs. And I don't know, dude, like the Kansas City Chiefs, their plus minus differential is not all that good. I don't believe, but they're undefeated. Winning. They keep winning. I mean, I put Mahomes on the Mount Rushmore of greatest quarterbacks already.
Absolutely.
Andy Reid is one of the greatest coaches there's ever been in the history of the NFL. Kelsey is one of the top 2 or 3 tight ends.
He doesn't have a touchdown yet, right?
To ever play the game. Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the year, everybody was all over Kelsey saying that, he partied too much and he was too distracted with his relationship and all of the fun that he's having. But, here we are. If this is the version of the Chiefs that is not the best version of the Chiefs, it's not going to be fun for the rest of the league if they click into gear. And it seems like beating the 49ers, that might be the calibration coming into place for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we got another
what the fuck else, Ron? Yeah.
So we got another sports story. And I just thought this was really cool because, I feel like a lot of times athletes get crap for being fans too. And there's a kid who is an undrafted free agent who plays for the Lakers. I hope I say his last name correctly. His name is Quincy Oliveri, and he's a guard from Xavier. And this is starting to happen when you start having athletes who play a lot later into their career. So believe it or not, Steph Curry's been in the NBA for a long ass time, right? It just, for some reason, it doesn't seem like it to me, but he's been in the NBA, 15 years now? 14 years?
Dude, look here. The NBA and like boxing are two things where guys used to get old earlier. Like when Ali beat George Foreman, the whole thing was, of course he had the forced exile due to the Vietnam thing and whatever, probably made him seem older than he was, but he was 32.
Yeah.
He was 32, which would be considered quite young now in boxing and in mixed martial arts. We got guys that are out there, they're not really considered that old even when they're in their late 30s. And in basketball, guys were pretty much done by the time that they were in their mid 30s, certainly. And so I think that you can't say enough about how good some of these guys are late into their career. Steph Curry still feels young because he's got that baby face for starters, and he still plays like Steph Curry.
Correct.
So you just don't think of him as being that old. But yeah, I mean, how long has he been in the league now, Ron? Like 16 years or something?
15, 16 years. Yeah. So we were playing the do the math game a half hour ago. So a kid that's 20, let's just say 22 years old right now, when Steph came into the league, that means that kid was 7. Well, Ricky, just remember yourself as a 7-year-old. Remember yourself as a 10 and 11-year-old. NBA players or your sports heroes, they were gods to us, correct? So imagine
Dr. J. Dr. J and George Gervin and Pete Maravich and
So this
Bird
kid,
and Magic, those guys were larger than life, man.
Yeah. So this kid, Quincy Oliveri, got to meet Steph before the Lakers Warriors game this weekend. And I hope that we have the video of his press conference afterwards. He gets emotional, and it's kind of cool.
And you mentioned Book and KD knowing who you are. It looked like maybe your favorite player of all time also knows who you are. We saw Steph Curry having some words with you on the court after the game. What can you tell us about that conversation?
Man, it's crazy because I've liked him since I was in like 6th grade. Like, it was, I don't even know what to say, man, because like that's my favorite player ever. And the first thing he told me was like, I'm a big fan of your game. And like, truth be told, I'm a big fan of him. Like I had his jersey. He signed it twice. I used to sleep under that jersey, and like I just wanted to be like him so bad. And so just to be able to meet him, him be able to have some respect for me, and then us to talk in the back, he gave me a pair of his shoes and signed them. Like that meant the world to me, man. Like my dad knows, my mom knows. Like it just means a lot. And like I don't know. It just means a lot.
All right, Ron, I got to say it. I'm a fan of this kid now. I'd never heard of him. This is my introduction to this kid, and I am a fan and will be a fan because that is a human moment that I think regular schlubs like you and me can relate to. He's 100%. Just like us. He just happens to have athletic ability and talent that 99% of us as sports fans lack to get to that level. But can you imagine if we did have the ability to get to that level? I can't imagine it either, but I mean, I would have been overwhelmed if I got to meet Julius Erving or if I got to meet Larry Bird when I was, 20 years old. I mean, whether I was a player or not, it would have been an unbelievable. I still get excited with the guests that we have on this show, Ron.
Absolutely.
I'm sitting here and I hope that comes across to people You know, I'm excited just to sit here and think, man, I'm talking to Larry Zonka. I'm talking to John Riggins. I'm talking to Dale Murphy, right? Like, it's a big deal if you cared when you were young. You know, these athletes, when we were young, they still mean something to us when we're older. And for him to be an NBA player now and to still be kind of that inner 12-year-old, allowing that to come out and not hiding it, you know, it's very vulnerable, and it just makes me like the kid.
Oh, it was just pure raw emotion. It wasn't contrived. It wasn't a look at me moment. It was just like, and it was funny too, because I mean, I guess when you're a dad, this happens too, is you kind of see other people as your kids sometimes, and you kind of think about like, how would my kids react? And just him talking about his parents, and just, you know, thinking about, I'm just remembering, you know, how much Tyler used to like her sports heroes, and you can picture your kid like sleeping in their Steph Curry jersey. Like we got Tyler LeBron jersey when she was little, and she was so excited, right? And so it was so cool to watch this kid just raw emotion, nothing staged. It was just 100% real, and it was awesome.
Ron, I love Charles Barkley. I've said before that Charles Barkley might be the person that I would most like to interview from sports. I just think Charles Barkley is a good human being, and I enjoy him. Having said that, remember the old Charles Barkley commercial, "I'm not a role model"?
Yep.
Back from like the early 90s, I think it was. And I get that. I understand that feeling that athletes, you know, they didn't ask to be a role model. They're doing their job, and that's not something that they asked for. But I do think that the wiser ones realize that it's something that goes with the territory. You are a role model, whether you like it or not. Just like as a parent, your children are going to watch you, and they're going to look at you as a role model, and for better or worse, they're going to pick up things from you. You know, my grandfather used to tell me that children are walking in their parents' footsteps, and they look at what you do, and what you do is ultimately more important than what you say a lot of the time. And so a guy like Steph Curry, I think it's a validation in some ways of Steph Curry, because what has Steph Curry ever done wrong in his entire career? I mean, he's been in the spotlight now for how long? And I can't think of one bad thing to say about Steph Curry. The way that he has always handled himself, the way that he has been with the media, the way that he has been with fans, just everything about the way that he has comported himself has been pure class. And so, you know, to find himself in this role where, you know, he's probably as surprised as anyone to be an elder statesman of sorts. But I hope that Steph Curry takes some validation in that moment too, because good on him. I think he has handled himself throughout his career in nothing but the right way.
Yeah. You know, speaking of athletes that comport themselves in the right way, I've heard stories about Brady where, I mean, he's arguably the most famous. Well, I guess him and LeBron, maybe the two most famous athletes in the world. Maybe not the world because of football, but at least in the United States. And I hear
If we're
stories
including
where
retired people, you know.
Yeah. But I would hear stories where
into the equation.
I heard stories where, you know, the Patriots would sign a free agent, and the guy, you know, is his first day in, maybe it's the third or fourth week of the season, and he'd walk into the locker room, and Tom Brady would walk up to him and say, "Hi, I'm Tom." Like, of course you're Tom Brady, but I love hearing stories like that. I love hearing stories when these guys, they know how famous they are. They know how good they are at sports, but they also know they're just, when it's all said and done, they're just dudes. And I love when I hear stories about these guys when they get it and they're just guys. And it's just such a cool thing. Imagine an undrafted free agent who walks into the Patriots locker room and he can't believe he's going to be on the same team as Tom Brady. And Tom Brady walks up to him and says, "Hi, I'm Tom." Like, pretty cool. It's pretty cool, Ricky.
I don't think that's how Jordan greeted people to the Bulls, Ron.
Probably.
I think he just wouldn't talk to you for a while. And then if you fucked up, you know, he would dangle you by your feet from like a 15-story window until you cried, peed yourself. Then he'd let you back up. I don't know. That's probably Jordan was you know, it's like I've always said, Jordan's the greatest of all time. He might not have been the most fun to play with all the time.
Gosh, no.
compared
No
to
way.
some of these other guys.
Hey, OutKick fans on YouTube, if you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and make your way over to OutKick.com where you can watch the full episode.